Hi everybody, I'm Christy Coloutti, a principal in Rutland City Public Schools. I'm excited to talk with all of you about our work on the Portrait of a Graduate and our strategic plan that we've been working on the last couple of years here in Rutland City Public Schools. I brought some guests with us to talk a little bit more about the in-depth on this. So I'm going to start with having you all introduce yourselves.
Hi, I'm Shania Reed. I'm student representative at Rutland High School, and I'm here to talk about a student perspective.
Hello, I'm Patricia Agner. I'm the Director of Technology for the Rutland City Public Schools, and I'm here to talk about technology.
Hello, I'm Bianca McKean. I am the Assistant Superintendent for Rutland City Public Schools.
And hello, I am Bill Olson. I'm the Superintendent at Rutland City.
All right, so we are going to talk with all of you. There's been a lot of buzz around Rutland City talking about the Portrait of a Graduate, and I want folks to know what it is, what it means to us as a school system, and how we implement these things in our everyday. So who would like to start? Bianca, would you like to start just talking to us a little bit about it?
Yeah. So a couple years ago, we decided as a school district that we really needed to vision forward for the future. What were the essential skills that we wanted all of our students to have when they graduate from Rutland City Public Schools. So although it is called the Portrait of a Graduate, it really is something that spans all of our schools. And we worked with community members, students, faculty, and other staff to look at deciding which skills we really wanted to focus on as a district. And we identified 7 skills. And that is really our vision for our schools, for looking to try to make sure that our students are ready for whatever comes after they leave Rutland City Public Schools, so career and college ready. The skills that we developed are adaptability, collaboration, communication, critical thinking, empathy, integrity, and wellness. And with that work, it was really important to us that we really involved a lot of stakeholders. So we had a lot of business connections, and we also had a lot of student voice. And Shania was a part of that process with us.
Do you want to tell us a little bit what that process looked like? How did you get involved in this? What role did you play?
I think it was really cool because we all came together as a community, and we had students, teachers, principals. We had a whole bunch of people from the community talk about their experiences or how we can improve Portrait of a Graduate.
Nice. What are some of the things that you learned through this process, some of the skills that maybe you can take away into your own life and things, how you've seen it like through the school system, where you've learned these traits?
I learned that communication is very important because a teacher could think one thing and a student could think the other, but it's not until you guys come together and talk about it till you realize.
I think seeing everybody collaborate around these traits was really impressive. And it was great having students' perspectives.
Yeah.
So how were you able to get information maybe from your friends that weren't there? Did you talk about this with them and just talk about what traits were important to them, or how did we gain feedback from everybody?
Well, I talked to my
Surveys.
friends. We did, principals posted forms that we needed to fill out. And a majority of students thought that communication and empathy were a huge factor because some students didn't feel that they were being heard until we did this process.
Oh, nice. That's great, for sure. So I know many schools across the country are doing different processes to like visions and things like that. Why did you choose this process? Why was it important to Rutland City Schools? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. I think we were at the point 2 years ago when we were coming out of the pandemic. The pandemic was so disruptive to education. And we had heard about districts around the state that had done this, and there's some big districts around the country that have done this process. It's kind of a trendy term right now, Portrait of a Graduate. But there's an organization named Battelle for Kids that we worked with. They worked with very large districts around the country, and we were fortunate to work with them as well, even though we're not as big as these other places. And what they're really trying to do is, use. Obviously, everybody understands that the future is bringing a lot of unknowns to life, to society, to the work world, and so it's a way for people to get together in a community, understand what they're what they would really like to shoot for goals for their kids, and prepare the kids for that unexpected, the unexpecteds that are coming towards us, you know, in the work world or in civil society. And the goal is to create people that are going to be well employed and be good citizens. A lot of this is about skill work, but it's also about attributes about being a good citizen.
And I can speak from being on this process and committee as well. I think it's very applicable, right? So when we're at the primary levels, teaching these skills to students and how we can modify our curriculum and things to make sure that our students are leaving the primary buildings, the intermediate school, with these skills, it is exactly what we all want for our own children. So I think it was, you know, really important. Technology, how did technology play into this? How do you see it playing into the whole portrait? Tell us a little bit about that.
You know, I thought a little bit about great examples of the portrait of a graduate and, you know, how we are applying these ideals we have for our kids. And I was thinking about the STEAM program in your building in kindergarten through 2, and some of the traits that our kids are learning are adaptability and collaboration, communication, critical thinking, integrity. They're innovating, they've got hands-on technology opportunities. We're tying it to literacy. In your building, we call it STREAM, not STEAM.
Right.
They're project-based, and you're doing these great building-wide engagements around STEAM. So technology is a great fit for the portrait of a graduate traits. And as I think about innovation, as I think about the things Bill talked about, like how do we future-proof the experiences of our kids? Technology is going to have a really important role in that. And I'd love to talk more about that as we talk about strategic planning.
Right, right. And I think while we're looking at all these traits, we talk about how they are in schools, but we also need to look at them in the workforce. And I know recently the administrative team took a tour of a local business. Do you want to speak a little bit about that?
Sure. We have contacts with General Electric. They GE Aviation. They've worked with us in previous years, especially through Stafford Tech. But we have a former graduate who was from Rutland High School, Marty Marr, who was the class of 2002, I think. And we asked Marty, we'd love to be able to see what we think the portrait is in action. We want to see what your employees, what your workers are doing in the building, and see if it actually lines up with what we've come up with as the vision. So we took a tour of the facility, the plant. It's really modern. It requires a lot of collaboration. It requires a lot of communication. Those are the kind of skills that when we asked them afterwards, we took a tour, then we had a little meeting with their leadership, and we said, what are you seeing as important for employees? And they talked about many of these same skills that we've said are important. They require those, or they expect workers to be able to have those as well. It's not so much that they need to be trained on the specific skill work, but it's these, I guess, soft skills that workers are going to need to be successful. So that was a little bit rewarding for us to see what we envisioned would be what is really true and needed in the workplace.
So the process was to develop the portrait of a graduate, and then how to implement that in the schools. So I know a plan was developed, right? We have this strategic plan which ties hand in hand with our portrait of a graduate. Do you want to speak, Bianca, a little bit about the components of the strategic plan?
Sure. So yeah, I'll just say that, we're not done with our work, with the portrait work. We developed our portrait traits that we're aiming for, and now we have, at every level, we're working to embed these traits to go along with the academics that we offer in school, but also, as Bill mentioned, to develop the whole student and those soft skills that they will need to be successful after school. So our strategic plan, again, we involved students and community members in helping us really plan over the course of the next 5 years how we need to use the resources that we have available to us to help ensure that we're meeting our vision of Portrait of a Graduate, and that I see the strategic plan as an opportunity for us to be able to make our schools really what we want them to be, to help make sure that our students get the best experience possible. So our strategic plan is broken into 3 priority areas. The first one is teaching and learning. The second one is the evolution of wellness through inclusive school communities. And the third priority area is resources for success. So each of those priority areas has several strategies that we will be working on over the course of the next 5 years, and objectives very clearly laid out for how we can really work on those 3 priority areas and embed our portrait over time. And we'll talk about kind of the process to do that, but we've spent substantial time at the administrative level and visiting all of the schools, and we have teams that are going to be working on each of these areas to help ensure forward progress in the strategic plan over the course of the next several years.
And I think it's important to note, these are not necessarily new strategies, right? There's a lot of practices that we're doing every day. So it wasn't something all of a sudden brand new, here we go, we need to implement this. We're just incorporating it, streamlining it, and having a really clear process. I think the process is very clear, which is important for not only our teaching staff, but for the community, so they can see exactly what we're expecting out of everybody. So teaching and learning, maybe do you want to elaborate a little bit how that looks, and then we can maybe talk about the different areas. I know wellness is something, I'm a member of that committee, and then resources for success. I think, Patricia, that's probably the level you're spearheading, so maybe we can each just touch a little bit upon those.
So teaching and learning, of course, is all things related to academics, our learning systems, our assessment structure, and our curriculum, and also building student agency. So when we look at a priority area like teaching and learning, there's a lot there because we're schools and our work is all connected to that. Some of the strategies we've outlined to review, and so as you mentioned, Christy, it's not like we're reinventing everything, but it's very healthy for school districts to ensure that we're reviewing our practices and our curriculum and make sure that it is forward-thinking and getting our students to the point where they need to be. So we'll be looking at things like how are we reviewing our curriculum over time, looking at building schedules and how we're using our resources to ensure that all students can be successful. How are we embedding those portrait traits and expanding the diversity of what we are teaching to our students. Also looking at our assessments and how are we adjusting and adapting those assessments and making sure that we are meeting the needs of all students, both at a universal level when we talk about every student in the classroom, and then also at a more targeted level if we have students that are struggling in various areas. Looking at our data and how we collaborate as teaching teams and cross-disciplinary, and looking to ensure that we have equal opportunity and access across all of our grade levels. In addition, we're also trying to improve our efforts to have students take some ownership and have some agency in their own learning. And that would include things like goal setting with students, ensuring that they have timely communication and they're able to communicate about their education, and making sure that we're working on those partnerships with our community members so that we have more opportunities for our students and different ways to think about what their learning could look like. What are the different pathways available to them as we work to build healthy relationships with our students and family members and community members.
One thing you mentioned was like student pathways. So Shania, what are some things like that you're seeing at the high school? I know last year when I was doing this, I was able to interview folks from Stafford, and they were talking about their like work-based opportunities where they can go into the community. Are there any opportunities that you've had to work in our local communities?
So for Northeast School, I was able to volunteer in the classroom. And for communities, there's like a whole bunch of like theater and like stuff that you can help learn. Like there's programs at the Mint that help kids learn with hands-on and technology.
Nice. So that you have opportunities being a high school student to work in your community and maybe get a better feel for what you want to do when you go into your career path or whatever. So that's great. Nice. The second area was wellness. I'm a small member of that group, and we focused on students, staff, and the infrastructure.
Let me ask a question.
Sure.
Yeah, so tell me about wellness. Go ahead.
Sure, I'll tell you about wellness, Ms. Wilson, thank you. So we talked about how if you have healthy staff, you have healthy students, right? So one thing that we are targeting is making sure that all of our staff feel like they have a healthy work-life balance, sending out surveys, getting some feedback, what would help them be successful in their role. For the students, we were talking about making sure students feel safe in our building, making sure all students feel respected and valued. So that's one area that we're focusing on. We had talked about providing equal access for like extracurricular activities and how we're going to go about doing that, whether it be sports or art and music, or support families that may not be able to get students here because of transportation or financial issues. So making sure that we have equal opportunity across all students for that. And in the area of infrastructure, let's take a look at what we're doing for this. Promoting a safe and secure environment for all students. We are implementing, this is probably under resources, maybe one thing I'll mention though is we have a new safety system, secure system for visitors entering our building, so just making sure everybody feels safe at all times. So the second component of this is, all three of these components are super beneficial to everybody and really necessary. So wellness is something I had a lot of passion for. So
It's funny about wellness because I think like Bianca said, teaching and learning is really critical. That's what schools do.
Yeah.
And then resources for success, that's how we use the resources for the teaching and learning. But wellness was something I think came up with in our group, kind of it wasn't an afterthought, but like somebody kind of said it on the side, and it became one of the most important of our three areas, and to the point where we said this is one of the three most important things we need to do to make sure our staff and students are doing well.
Yeah, and I think coming out of the pandemic maybe put a bigger lens on that area of wellness, right? Like we always talk about making sure we keep ourselves healthy and all that, but I think coming out of the pandemic may have put a greater lens on that for sure. Would you like to talk about resources for success?
Sure. So when I think about resources for success, we have our staff, we have our equitable resources, and then we have our infrastructure. And some of the work that we're doing right now around staff is we're looking at how we recruit and retain our employees, and also considering how do we build capacity internally to grow our own folks and attract professionals to the area of education as well. So there may be pathways for advancement for people, and if we can leverage that and they're familiar with our system, there are tremendous advantages for that. And then support for growth for our staff, so professional development and other opportunities. And we also need to look at our evaluation system because we want to make sure that we're giving relevant feedback to our employees. When we look at the area of equitable resources, one thing we have to do is align the budget to the strategic plan and the priorities of the strategic plan, and then really be familiar with our continuum of services for our students. And that's the area that our specific team is looking at right now, and where the first place we start is just plotting that out and becoming familiar with what's happening across kindergarten through 12. And the last area is infrastructure. And wow, do I spend a lot of time thinking about infrastructure. Infrastructure can be our physical environments, like our physical plants or buildings, and it can also be things like the technologies that supports all of that. In IT, for example, we're involved in things like HVAC and areas that we never really planned, 20 years ago. Other things we're looking at are security, safety, and the health needs of our employees and our kids. We spend a lot of time thinking about security, including cybersecurity. So it's not always just physical security. Right. There are other areas that we're looking at. And then lastly, looking at that infrastructure so we can have, and it's technology infrastructure, in this instance, clear and equitable communication with our households and our employees. And that's the area that we're focusing on under that objective. And so we're mapping out all the ways that we communicate, and then we're looking for improvements.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
So what about next steps? What are some of the next steps that Rutland City Schools will do to continue this momentum of this work? What are some next steps that we have? in store for us.
Well, I just wanted to piggyback on one of the things Patricia was talking about with equitable resources. She spoke about the budget, and obviously we have a responsibility every year to our constituents and our taxpayers to ensure that we're being fiscally responsible. So as we are working to present our budget to our board, it's really important to us that we're ensuring that we're using those resources the best way possible, and that we are ensuring that we are making the best decisions we can with the resources we have available. So we've talked about a lot of things that we're reviewing, and I think it's really healthy, and it's a responsibility for schools to be reviewing and ensuring that they're using their funds wisely, and that it's helping us prepare our students for our ever-changing world. So that, of course, is something we do all the time. We review our budget, and we look for how to ensure we're doing that in the most fiscally responsible way. But also keeping in mind the work of the strategic plan will help guide those conversations. So that's one thing we're working on. That is sort of yearly work, not specific to the strategic plan.
And I would love to share that we also have to revise our technology plan. It ends this year. We have a technology plan for the Rutland City Public Schools. Not all schools have them in the state of Vermont. They used to be required, but we feel like it's a necessary thing to have so we can be forward-thinking and innovative. And so that will tie to the budget as well as we look towards the future, and we're going to plan out 5 years. So that's going to cover a lot of the areas in the Portrait of a Graduate and also the strategic plan.
Good. And I know at the building level we have teacher leaders, so they are getting feedback from all the stakeholders in the building, bringing it back to meetings throughout the year, really having a targeted focus, which I know will help for sure.
Yeah, and I was going to add that I think the beauty of what we did in the past 2 years was we really involved the whole community. Like Shania was saying, we had parents, community leaders, business folks, and then of course the people in the school, and a whole bunch of students. We involve about 50 students or so, I think?
Yeah, we had student sessions during the school day, so we had students who could really access those. And then we also had students involved in the community presentations. And we would like to continue to involve students in the process as we're rolling out the strategic plan. We have lots of different groups working in different priority areas. A lot of our teacher leaders are involved with that work. And as we move throughout that planning process, we hope to keep students really involved with that.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
I was going to say,
just depend on Bianca. I know she's going to finish it.
She summed it up for you.
But we definitely want folks like Shania who really contributed some great ideas to create this. Or we had some parents that came up with some really good ideas too that we probably wouldn't have included otherwise. That's one thing I was going to say. Second thing, you know what I'm going to say? Let's see if she can know. See if she knows. I don't know how your rating's going to be for this episode.
Pretty high, I'm guessing.
You think they're pretty high?
I think.
Well, because of Shania, probably.
Are you going to tell a
Special
dad
guest
joke?
star.
I bet you if you told a dad
I'm
joke,
trying
it'd
to
be really,
create some dad jokes just to get some ratings. But I think this might sound a little dry, and you read this and you're like, oh, well, it's just this really detailed plan. But I think that's the key to success is when you create this, our portrait and then our plan is systematically and methodically going through a process. And so right now, these folks are leading that process of really looking at every single detail that we said we were going to shoot for, assessing where we are at right now with it, trying to get some current data, and then making a plan over probably more like next year and the year after to start to shift what we're doing a little bit, or build on what we're doing, continue what we're doing to build a better district and reach the vision. So it's that kind of slow, boring, methodical process that gets us toward a much better place.
And I'm going to actually disagree with you on camera because I don't think this information is like dry.
Oh.
It's actually, I feel, very user-friendly. And that's one thing that I kept pushing for is like, make sure everybody understands the language of it, right? Yeah. So I don't think it's dry. I think it's pretty good, for sure.
Can I ask Shania, what excites you? I mean, you're, a junior this year, so you are getting the beginning of the implementation of this plan. But what excites you as a student when you look at these documents, both the portrait and the strategic plan?
I just think, I'm going to be leaving soon. But for the kids that are coming in, I'm really excited because I think this will help them learn better and feel safer. I think it's just going to create, like, our goal is to create a happier and healthier environment for kids to grow. And I feel like this is definitely doing it.
Thank you.
Good answer, Shania.
That's a mic drop.
Yeah.
So if I'm at home watching this segment, because I know everybody in Rutland County watches this show, how can I get involved? What are some ways that community members can get involved in this? Can they call central office? Could they attend a board meeting? What are some ways our community members that may not have been part of this process get involved with us?
First, I'll say that the document is available on our school website, and I would encourage people to take a look at the document. The school board is updated quarterly on the progress we're making towards meeting these goals. So we would encourage people to tune into the board meetings or attend the board meetings. And if people have certain areas that they really have particular passion around, teaching and learning, wellness, resources for success, they could certainly reach out to us at central office, and we will would love to have people involved in the work as we move forward. Stay tuned as we go through this work. We may be asking for community members to be involved in different aspects of reviewing the work we're doing or being part of the planning of that work. Right now, we've developed the document with lots of stakeholders, and now within the school, we have to determine how this is going to be our living, breathing document that's guiding our work in our buildings. So that's kind of where we're at right now.
Yeah, and just to add on a little bit, I think a lot of times we get information and make decisions on where we're going to go through survey work. And so we frequently will send out surveys to say, give us your input on this. Christy just sent one out recently about regarding wellness. So getting that kind of contribution really helps, even though it takes a few minutes to do it. But filling out a survey really helps us. And I expect that we're going to have, as Bianca mentioned, reports to the school board, but also at the end of the year, we'd like to have some kind of community event like we did with when Shania participated, where we can involve those same constituencies to show them how far we've advanced, and then ask for their feedback. And this thing is not like we created this and it's perfectly done and we're not going to change anything. There's probably some adjustments we'll be making year by year by year. So we're going to need community feedback. And you just said if there's ways people can help, even leading on this, we'd appreciate that. Like Marty Marr, who helped us out, giving us a tour of that facility and helping us understand what the working world really requires. So that's helpful.
Great. Any other final thoughts? This is your time. Drum roll for a final thought, Mr. Olson.
I'll let Shania go first.
Shania, final thought.
You want to hear a dad joke?
Yeah.
How do you make a tissue dance?
I wonder.
Put a little boogie in it.
There you go.
Ratings just spiked.
They're up. All right. All right. Well, thank you guys so much, and thank you for watching our edition with Rutland City Public Schools, The Learning Lounge.